Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Phil McBride. My call sign is Victor Alpha 3 Quebec Romeo, and I am the president of Radio Amateurs of Canada. I'd like to welcome you all to the 31st Annual General Meeting of the Corporation. This meeting is held once a year as a consequence of our not-for-profit status as a Canadian not-for-profit, which allows us to maintain all of our programs. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to share the agenda or share my screen. I hope everyone can hear me, and I hope everyone can see me. If anyone has any issues during the presentation, if you're in Zoom, please just go to chat. I'm monitoring chat on my other window. If you're joining us from YouTube, hello. I will be going looking at YouTube here and there when I can, but I will be looking at both YouTube and Zoom chat at the end when it comes time for general questions and answers. So I guess I've given you my president's welcome. As is tradition, as we do at every AGM, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of those silent keys that aren't with us this year that were last year. Thank you very much. I would now like to introduce the board and the executive of Radio Amateurs of Canada. As you can see, anyone who reads TCA will recognize this page. These are the individuals that are responsible for the governance and the operations of Radio Amateurs of Canada. And we'll speak more to how RAC operates for those who might not be familiar with it during my message. As a matter of business, we are going to approve the minutes of last year's AGM, which I will display on the screen. So everyone who is in the Zoom meeting is a member of RAC. You're a voting member. So if you're in the Zoom meeting, you're able to cast a ballot. I would ask that you take a moment to read the minutes that are displayed. And I'm going to ask if anyone has any, before I ask for a motion, if anyone has any questions or concerns with what they're reading. If not, I would like a member to move, and you can move by chat, and I will be able to identify you, move to accept these minutes as displayed. So I have a mover from Stuart, Victor Echo 9, Charlie Foxtrot. Can I have a second, please? I have a second from Pietra, Victor Echo 9, Papa X-Ray Lima. Is there any further discussion on this? If there is, please say it in the chat. Hearing none, I'm going to ask Jeff, VA3ISP, RAC's CITO, to invoke the poll. Please vote yay or nay. Give it a few more seconds. There are still some who haven't voted, so I'm just waiting. I will. 10 more seconds. If you haven't voted, please vote now. I will end the poll. And I will share the results. The poll, 75 voted, yay, 0 voted nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to my report, which I give to the membership every year. And à cause de mes compétences limitées en français, je ne ferai ces discours qu'en anglais. Néanmoins, ce rapport sera disponible en français dans le numéro de novembre-décembre de TCA et aussi sur le site web de RAC. Every year at the annual general meeting, or the AGM, the president of Radio Amateurs of Canada is required to give a report to the membership on the state of the corporation, detail the activities and ventures of the previous year, and provide an outlook in the future. As I come to you today, I'm happy to report that we have had a fantastic year and the future looks bright. While I came to you from Halifax, Nova Scotia last year, due to the economic climate in Canada, fiscal prudence demanded that we hold our AGM virtually this year. RAC currently has a full slate of executive officers and directors. As was announced in the last edition of the Canadian Amateur, I am stepping down as president effective November 1st. In my stead, the board of directors has appointed Alan Boyd, Victor Echo 3 Alpha Juliet Bravo, and Victor Echo 3 Echo Mike as president, and elected Brent Taylor, Victor Yankee 2 Hotel Fox, as vice president for the remainder of the term ending December 31st, 2025. Additionally, we are welcoming 2 new board members at the beginning of 2025, Hiroshi Takahashi, Victor Alpha 7 Lima Echo Tango as director for BC Yukon, and Joel Brisson, Victor Alpha 3 Whiskey Bravo Kilo as director for Ontario Northeast. I would like to thank these individuals, as well as those serving and who have served in the organization, for freely giving of their time in their various roles. RAC is a primarily volunteer-driven organization, and we wouldn't be what we are today without people dedicated to its success. Our membership stands at approximately 3,500, a 5% increase since my report last year, with approximately 16% of those being Maple Leaf operators. The amateur radio service as a whole grew by 2% over the last year, which means that membership in RAC outpaced new certificate holders by a factor of 2.5. That said, we estimate that only 5% of Canadian radio amateurs are members of their national society, something that we are always working to improve on. Later on in this meeting, RAC's treasurer, Margaret Tidman, Victor Echo 3, Victor X-ray November, will present the 2023 audited financial statements to show that RAC stands on solid financial ground with adequate reserves to weather whatever storms may come our way. RAC is continuing to offer basic and advanced certification courses via telepresence. The basic courses held in fall 2023, winter 2024, and spring 2024 saw 529 attendees, while the course running in fall 2024 has 116 attendees. The advanced courses held in fall 2023 and winter 2024 saw 90 attendees, while the course running in fall 2024 has 67 attendees. These courses are reaching a nationwide audience, which allows those interested in amateur radio in some of the more remote areas of our country to participate. Unlike most national societies, RAC's interface with our regulator is not a political one. RAC sits on the Canadian Amateur Radio Advisory Board, or CARIB, with Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada, which we know as ICID, the federal agency responsible for spectrum management and regulation. This unique medium allows for regular two-way discussions directly with policy staff about the amateur radio service. The latest CARIB meeting was held on September 17th with Regulatory Affairs Officer Dave Goodwin, Victor Echo 3 Kilo Golf, acting as chair. We recapped our recommendations for changes to RIC 9, the policy document that deals with call signs in Canada. We also discussed the progress that ICID was making in implementing RAC's proposals for changes to the basic question bank. RAC also presented 2 proposals to ICID based on input from the membership. One was to enact policy changes that would allow basic and basic with honor certificate holders to operate remotely controlled stations sponsored and hosted by advanced certificate holders. The other was a request to increase the maximum allowed bandwidth on 630 meters to 2.8 kilohertz. Finally, RAC informed ICID that we would be hosting a public area on RAC's website to publish keys and codes for those wishing to experiment with encryption in the amateur radio service. This page would fulfill the regulatory requirements around encryption. I thank Dave for all of the excellent work he has done as Regulatory Affairs Officer. One of the reasons RAC is so effective as an advocate for our spectrum is our participation in regulatory events at the international level. In late 2023, RAC Special Advisor Paul Coverdale, Victor Echo 3 India Charlie Victor, attended the World Radio Conference, WRC 23 in Dubai. Attending meetings such as these are vital to the defense of our spectrum. As has been reported, we were able to hold our own and stave off threats to our spectrum that had been proposed. Additionally, since the agenda for the next meeting is always set at the end of the previous one, there are no items pertaining to the amateur radio service on the docket for WRC 20. Participation in these meetings is expensive. To that end, RAC maintains the Defensive Amateur Radio Fund, DARF, for the sole purpose of sending a representative to the World Radio Communication Conferences every 4 years. With the rising cost of travel, we ask for donations to this critically important fund to ensure that we can maintain a presence at the international table. There has been a great deal of activity on the community services file thus far. We have managed to find several highly qualified volunteers to begin to fill some of these new roles within the organization at the section and national levels, but we are in need of more. While we continue to develop the Auxiliary Communication Service of Canada, what we call ACS, at the national level, we are taking advantage of provincial partnerships to fund development. To that end, RAC entered into an agreement with the Province of Ontario's Treasury Board Secretariat, which is the cabinet ministry that oversees Emergency Management Ontario, and have received significant funding to develop both the ACS program as well as develop assets that can be deployed in times of disaster across the province. We hope to use this experience as a template to seek similar agreements with other provinces and territories, as well as the federal government, to complete a Made in Canada auxiliary communications curriculum and certification. I would like to thank Community Services Officer Jason Tremblay, Victor Echo 3 Juliet X-Ray Tango, and the volunteers working with him for the countless hours they've spent in developing this program, and I wish them continued success. RAC has a corporate office in Ottawa. RAC has had a corporate office in Ottawa since its inception, but over the years it fell into a state of disrepair. This year, an effort spearheaded by Craig Delmage, Victor Echo 3 Oscar Papa, and Mike Kelly, Victor Echo 3 Fox Kilo, saw the refurbishment and expansion of our space. In addition, the Victor Echo 3 Romeo Hotel Quebec, or VE3 RHQ fund, was struck for the purpose of funding an amateur radio presence at RAC's national headquarters. All renovations have been completed and the assembling of the station is in progress. RAC has been approached by some equipment manufacturers and distributors interested in taking part in this program. I would like to thank Craig and Mike, as well as Office Manager Adam McDonnell, for the time they spent purging the office and the storage closet, putting together and executing the plans, and giving us a space that we can all be proud of. It is my hope that these efforts can be used as a springboard to create a national flagship station program, which would see each of Canada's call sign areas hosting a state-of-the-art equipped station in areas of public interest and significance where the public could see amateur radio in action. On the youth file, RAC once again participated in the Canada-wide Science Fair in Ottawa, Ontario, this past May. Hundreds of students were introduced to amateur radio, with many asking questions and showing genuine interest in what we do. I would like to thank Dave Goodwin, Victor Echo 3 Kilo Golf, as well as all of the volunteers who took the time to put together a program and attend the event. Finally, RAC once again hosted Region 2's Youth on the Air, or YOTA Camp 2024, at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax this past July. Young radio amateurs from Canada, the United States, South America, and Europe got together for 6 days of amateur radio, fun, and camaraderie. I would like to thank all of the volunteers involved in planning and executing this important event. As I intimated previously, RAC provides many services to the amateur radio community, and we do it as a nearly 100% volunteer-run organization. If you are a member of RAC, I thank you for your support and confidence. If you are interested in being a part of the future of amateur radio in Canada as a volunteer, I ask that you send an email to volunteer@rac.ca to see what opportunities there are for you. If you are not a member, I urge you to go to the RAC website and sign up today. Your support will mean the continued defense and development of the hobby and service that we've all come to love. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Board of Directors, the executive, the staff, and volunteers of Radio Amateurs of Canada for the support and their friendship during the time that I have been a governing member of this organization. I leave RAC having accomplished what I set out to do, and I wish my successors all the best in their efforts to continue building and expanding this organization, as well as preserving and defending the amateur radio service in Canada. And thus ends my report. So with that, I would ask Jeff to put up a poll. Before you put the poll up, Jeff, I would like to ask for a motion to adopt the report I've given. You can do it in the chat, please. Albert Eros moves. Do I have a seconder? Hiroshi Takahashi, VA7LET seconds. Would everyone please vote? I'll give you 10 more seconds, guys. Okay, I will end the poll. I will share the results of 91 votes, 100% voted yay. The motion is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the list is the financial part of this presentation. And I'm going to pass this over to Margaret Tidman, Victor Alpha 3, Victor X-ray November. If you'll give me a moment, I will get her set up as presenter. Are you with me, Margaret?
I am here.
Okay, I'm going to unpin. Can you share your video, please? And I will unpin me, and I will pin you to the screen.
It says you have to start my video.
Stand by. Margaret, go ahead and start your video, please. Thank you. Stand by.
There we go.
I'm going to remove my pin, remove my spotlight, and I will pin you. Okay, there you go, Margaret. You're in charge. I will put you to the page and take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Ham Radio friends. So as usual, this finance page is a lot of information to digest in a short amount of time. So what I'm going to do is I'll highlight all the key points from the 2023 audited statements related to the balance sheet and the statement of operations. If there are any questions, we can cover those at the end. So first off, we'll start with the balance sheet. So at the end of 2023, we had $336,487 in cash and investments, which is enough to cover all existing liabilities and deferred program revenues, which amount to $190,270. All open accounts receivable were mostly related to the 2024 insurance program. The invoicing for this starts around November of 2023, so that's why there would be such a large amount in accounts receivable. All open accounts payable at December 31st, 2023 were paid in early 2024. Also in December of 2023, the $30,000 Canadian Emergency Business Account Loan, also known as CEBA, was repaid before the due date and no interest was incurred by RAC. So those are the highlights from the balance sheet. So we'll talk about the statement of operations now. For 2023, our total revenue of $358,270, which was $13,542 higher than 2022. Membership revenue, I'll just touch on the highlights of this as well. So the membership revenue was up a little bit compared to 2022. Interest income was up compared to 2022. This was primarily due to several of the GICs that matured during 2023, which interest was rolled back into the GICs and reinvested. Course registrations have dropped a little bit, and DARF was a fair bit higher, related to what Phil had spoke earlier about our representative going to Dubai in 2023, but I'll touch on that a little bit below as part of the expenses. For the expenses, we had a total of $378,743, which was $48,840 higher than 2022. The big contributors to the increase was primarily due to the annual general meeting I guess it wasn't the meeting, it was the biannual strategic planning meeting that the board and executive attended in Halifax, along with the AGM that took place in Halifax in 2023. This is only done every 2 years. In 2021, obviously due to the pandemic, we did not travel. We did not have that meeting. So the previous one was in 2019. So related to DARF, as Phil had said, our representative went to Dubai for the preparatory meeting and the conference for the World Radio Communications. So the amount in the revenue is offset directly by the cost below. So there's a zero impact to our profit and loss, or to our statement of operations. Professional fees increased in 2020 from 2022. This was because Phil was able to get us a one-time fee reduction in 2022, which unfortunately we won't be seeing again. Office expenses were up a little bit in 2023. This was due to some new roll-up banners for RAC that can be used at Dayton, AGMs, and various other HEM-related events, as well as golf shirts for the board and executive to celebrate RAC's 30th anniversary. All other expenses are fairly stable. So this brings us down to the most important part, is how did we end the year? So in 2023, we ended up with a deficit of $20,473 compared to a surplus of $14,825 in 2022. Again, this is mostly related to the strategic planning meeting that took place in Halifax in 2023. So those are the highlights. This will be published in the TCA for November and December. If anyone has any additional questions once they've had time to digest more of this, please feel free to email me at treasurer@rac.ca and I can answer any questions you have. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Phil.
All right, I'm gonna tag along on something you just said because everyone always looks at these and goes, "Oh my God, there was a deficit." Give me 1 second to. There we go. So there was a deficit. There was a deficit projected. The part that you're not seeing on the screen is the 2021 and 2020 values. Which, if you go back to TCA, you can read. In 2021, we had a surplus, if memory serves me, of $43,000, and we had a pretty significant surplus in 2020 as well. This was all due to the pandemic. We weren't doing anything. We couldn't spend any money. So the board, when we put together our budget for 2023, we estimated that we were going to be in budget because we decided to spend some of the money that we had been sitting and piling up. What had happened previously, after RAC had suffered some financial difficulties in the early 2010s, is we started saving a lot of money, putting into GICs and saving for a rainy day. As you can see from our investment income, and by the way, our investments are all GICs, are all very low risk. We're not playing the stock market. We have enough money to cover all of our liabilities. So ANF recommended to the board that we stop where we are. We don't need to save any more money. We don't need to create $1 million nest egg because it's not doing any good for amateur radio. So we knew we were going into deficit this year, but it's not a structural deficit. It was a deficit to spend some of the money that had piled up. So we are not spending beyond our means. We're not having to. We're not going to suffer that way. This was just to spend some of the money that had piled up during COVID. And to be honest, we're not done yet. So it's a good position to be in. But just to be clear, RAC is sitting on fairly firm financial ground, and our revenues are in good shape. So I'm going to ask with that, if anyone can please move to accept the audited financial statements as they have been presented. Ward Kennedy moves. Actually, sorry. Hold on, let's go back here. In order, the mover is actually David MP, Victor Echo 3, Kilo Victor Romeo. The seconder is Jack Benes. I'm just going by the order in which you hit. So I'm going to ask Jeff to put the poll up, and we'll have a vote, please. Thank you, Jeff. Vote away. Give it another 10 seconds. Okay, we'll end the poll. And of the 91 people who voted, they all voted yes. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Bye. Sorry, I scrolled past. Okay, our next motion I'm going to ask for, and just to be clear, Jeff, before you get the poll going, um, all of the financial statements along with my report will be in the TCA. It's all there, and you'll be able to see them if you're a member of the website. Now, I'm now asking for motion to appoint Baker Tilly Ottawa as auditors for 2024. They have been our auditors in the past, and we have no real reason to change them. So if I could get a motion for that, please. Richard Songhurst moves. Sorry, no, pardon me. Jack Ben has moved. Richard Songhurst seconds. And there is a poll on the floor. Would you please vote now? I'll give it another 15 seconds. And I will end the poll. All right, with 95 people voting, all voted in favor, no voted nay. The motion carries unanimously. I'll share the results for everyone for a moment. Okay, this comes to the end of the formal meeting, so I would ask that someone move to adjourn. Stephen Weiss, VA 1SIW moves. Ward Kennedy seconds. Jeff, would you please post the poll to adjourn? And vote now, please. Give it 10 more seconds. We'll end the poll and share that of the 96 votes, 96 voted yay. I call the meeting adjourned at 3:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1927 Zulu. Now, I'm not going to end the meeting just yet. We're going to go into Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you. I am going to allow people to be able to unmute themselves and to start the video, but I ask that you not unless I call you. This is question and answer. If you have any questions for me, or if something you'd like to say, I invite you to do so. And I'm going to move my YouTube video screen over to my other monitor so I can see if anyone brings anything up in the YouTube channel. If you'd like to entertain something, would you please raise your hand on Zoom? No one has questions? Okay, that works for me.
Phil.
Oh, I see I see a couple here. So let's start with Jeff. Yes, Jeff.
Phil, I just want
Yeah,
to take a few minutes and say thank you very much for everything you've done as a president of RAC. It was an absolute pleasure to be working with you. It's nice to have a president who understands IT, and we can kind of move some things along. So it's greatly appreciated. Thanks for all your help, Phil. Good luck in your new endeavors.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Jeff. Jack Bennis, go ahead, please.
Hi there. You mentioned that there was a fair bit of money from the provincial government of Ontario. I was wondering if you could give a little more detail about that.
I can give you some. I can't give you all because we're working with the government and there's there's a process. We were given money to develop ACS, so as has been reported. In Ontario, we've given 2 or 3 of the courses already, and we're using this opportunity. We're using the opportunity to develop the program to be a Canadian content course that'll be owned by RAC, IP and all, and that we can give certification for. The other part of the money was to develop drop kits, which we have made several of and are seeded across the province. They have been shown. We have shown them to at various shows. We were at an emergency preparedness show in Ottawa just a week and a half ago, where you and Jason V3GXT and Dave V3KG showed this to a bunch of provincial governments, the federal government. We did demonstrations for on behalf of VMO to the rest of the presenters, but we were there along with the Canadian Disaster Response Organization. So anyone who, I understand that there are a lot of people out there who said that, amateur radio and disaster in times of disaster is dead. We don't need it anymore. That's not the case, folks. And we're not the ones going and soliciting. We are being solicited by governments and NGOs. So these programs we wouldn't be developing these programs if we weren't being directly asked for them. So there's some really cool stuff happening, and you'll hear more about it as we're able to release more information in the TCA. Thanks, Jack. Raymond Perrin, please go ahead, sir.
There we go.
There you
That
go.
better? Thanks.
Yep, take it over.
Thanks very much for your good work. Just as a way of ancient history, I was the director of CRRL when we merged with CARF to form RAC, and I'm very, very happy that we do have RAC, and it's quite successful. The only thing that discourages me is the very low membership numbers, because I'm sure that each of CRRL and CARF had more members than RAC does now, and there are probably many, many more amateurs than there were then. So I just wonder if you have any plans to try to increase these numbers somehow.
Yes, we do. So my presidency has been more about fixing some of the structural business issues of the corporation, some of the process issues. My background as a business owner in information technology, but understanding that, I understand that 5.8% is a very low number, especially compared to some of the other countries out there. Part of what we've done is we brought on the executive created a position, an executive position called Membership Services Officer. And we have recently appointed Kimberly Cotescu, Victor Echo 3 Kilo Alpha, as the Membership Services Officer for RAC. So I leave having fixed some of the groundwork, and the next incoming administration can now spend some time working on expanding the membership, because we do have a lot to offer, and we have a lot that we do offer. We do add a value, a very vital one too. So part of what's going to happen going forward is that more and more of that is going to be shown to the amateur radio community. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Dan Howard, please go ahead.
Sorry, I think, can you hear me now?
5-9, go ahead.
Yeah, Phil, thank you for your service and stabilizing the organization. I've been a longtime life member of both ARL, I guess CRL at the time, and now RAC. One question I do have, we were talking about ACS, I guess it is. What happened to the name ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, which I thought sort of invoked, and was these more easier to, when publicizing amateur radio, it was a lot more easier for folks to see that there was also this facet of it, particularly now what's going on in the Southeast United States, where ARES is really quite well recognized compared to, I don't really even know what ACS stands for, to be honest with you. Back to you.
Okay. Look, that's a great question. It's a question I get a lot, and I'm happy to address it. So ARES, for those of you who might not know, stands for the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, which has been the moniker of both ARL and RACs, and the various amateurs under the groups who provide communications during times of distress. ACS stands for the Auxiliary Communication Service. And the biggest reason, there are several, but the biggest reason, the most important reason that we've moved to this new moniker is that when you say the word amateur to someone who works professionally in the emergency services, they do this. Their eyes just glaze over. We know that amateur doesn't mean amateur. The word amateur comes from the Latin root word is for the love of. As well, legally, amateur means without pecuniary interest, which is the most important part of the amateur service under our regulations. However, if you go to someone in the emergency services and you say the word auxiliary, they get it. You don't have to explain it to them. Oh, okay, you're an auxiliary. That means you're a backup. That means, you may be paid, you may be not, but they know that, oh, okay, so you're the backup. It's a lot of branding, but if I have to explain amateur to someone, there's a 50 to 60% chance that I'm not going to get the chance to explain it because they're just going to write me off in their head. And yes, Aries is still in the States, but they're also moving to they call it Oxcom. ACS, Oxcom, the terms they're kind of interchangeable. In Canada, we call it ACS, but that's why the primary reason we're making the change. Because the people we're serving better understand what it means, and it's better that they get it. So I hope that answers your question. Pietro, Victor Echo 9.
Sorry, just a
Go
follow
ahead.
up.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, that answers my question. But again, we were talking about lack of membership and interest, and we've lost that term, amateur radio, which I have a feeling that we've dealt with here at the Mississauga clubs and local clubs with Red Cross, etc., and we had no problem with the term amateur radio. So I don't want to debate it with you, but I really feel we've lost something in that in terms of identifying that amateur radio exists compared to, as you said, auxiliary or supported. Okay, thank you.
No problem, Don. Thank you very much. Pietro, Victor Echo 9, Papa X-Ray Lima. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to, I've working with one of taking the advanced ham course online now, and I'm just wondering if the auxiliary Oxcom communicator course is planned to migrate or to offer online as well. I know that there's a number of in-person ones that have run, and obviously that's gaining speed. Just some of them aren't geographically appropriate, so I'm wondering if that's going online. Thanks.
Yes. I don't know when it's going to happen though. So part of what we're doing with the funding that we're getting from Ontario is to develop the course curriculum. Once the course curriculum is developed and vetted and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I can't believe that we wouldn't offer it online. It's just going to be how it works. But that question, I would keep an eye on Jason's columns in TCA for more information on that as it happens. But I'm fairly confident that you're going to see an online version of that. Thank you. Tony, Golf 3 Yankee Alpha Quebec. How you doing? Go ahead.
Hi, Phil. I'd just like to go back to the previous comment about the abbreviation. Perhaps another alternative would be to go for ARCS, and then people could either use A for auxiliary or A for amateur, depending on which way you wanted to go.
It's something we could consider, but we're about 2.5, 3 years into this already, and it's not just here. This is happening in the United States as well. For anything on this, I would recommend that you send your questions, your comments to Jason Tremblay, Victor Echo 3 Juliet X-Ray Tango. His email address is community@rac.ca. He's RAC's Community Services Officer, CFO, and I'd recommend those questions go to him. Kenneth Gansel, Victor Alpha 3 Kilo Whiskey Golf. Go ahead.
Maybe not. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, 5-9. Go ahead.
Just to put a bit of perspective on the ACS thing, I have served for over 40 years in the police justice sector and just completed 4 years ago as chair of an agri-regional police services board, i.e. the commissioner of police for this region. I can tell you, walking into police meetings, which I have done since 1977 when I joined the Ottawa Police Force, mentioning the word amateur, you're going to be at the back of the bus. Auxiliary communications, every police service in Ontario has an auxiliary police force. They're used to that. They're used to the word auxiliary. If we want to fit in and provide these services, we've got to fit into their model, not the other way around. What Jason is doing is excellent, and the work he's done with the province is excellent as well. And I fully support that moving forward. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Stuart, Victor Echo 9, Charlie Fox, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Phil, and happy to see RAC going strong after my 30-year break for amateur radio and back in the hobby. And kudos to Dave V3 Golf Kilo for his amateur or advanced course that he does for us. I'm taking it for the second time because I had some stuff come up in my personal life that derailed me from doing my exam for the advance. But my comment or my question is around the RAC Challenge. I've been actively participating in RAC Challenge for the last several months, and the team at RAC the administrators does a great job. But I've identified some areas of concern where the system can be manipulated or some dishonest behavior could occur. And not saying it's happening now, but there is room for dishonest behavior in some of the reporting. So I just wanted to see what the direction with the RAC Challenge going forward, if there's modifications to the program coming to make it more fair and not lose some of the people that don't have the time to perform to the same levels as say I do, where I get out 2 or 3 times a week. Maybe make the playing field a little bit more level and give those opportunities to some that may not have the time to fully commit to it, like I do, and just make it more fair.
Okay. I can't really speak to that. I'm not sure if anyone online can speak to that. If there's anyone in the contest board,
Phil, I may be able to.
Okay, Dave, no, just give me one. Yeah, please. I'll find you and pin you, but go ahead, start talking.
Okay. All right. Well, Stuart, thanks very much for your question. I'm actually the fellow who invented the RAC Challenge several years ago, and it's now Ante who takes care of it. So if you have some specific concerns, please write to Ante at awards@rac.ca. You're right. There's room here for people to falsely report things. I mean, the RAC Challenge has been created on the basis of an honor system, so expect people to be honorable in this. If you do have suggestions for change, ways of improving it, by all means, go ahead. There are 2 broad aspects to the RAC Challenge. One is the so-called Coureur de Bois Award, which is really a recognition for people who actually can conduct a series of portable operations, and the other is the more scoring intensive aspect for people who are very regularly getting on the air and activating multiple locations. So anyway, the best person to talk to would be Ante at awards@rac.ca and give him your suggestions.
Yeah, and I've done that, Dave, and thanks for the reminder there. Just wanted to bring it up in this forum to let everybody know that I did bring up some of the concerns to the awards group there.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I'm gonna take it away again. There we go. Okay. George, is it George or is it Jorge? Victor Echo 3 Echo Alpha Delta. If I'm mispronouncing, I apologize.
No problem, it's Jorge.
Jorge. Bienvenidos.
Gracias. I'm a Venezuelan. I'm a Canadian citizen now, but I came from Venezuela 20 years ago. I'm operator in Colombia, Venezuela. I live in the States for some years, but don't operate there. And I found I rejoined with my hobby 3 years ago in London, Ontario, in an amazing radio club, and I'm very happy to see your organization. I'm a member of their organization, and I'm very, very happy to have something solid that is working for all of us in in high levels, and I very appreciate that. I'm most related to the digital world, and we can say now that we have a Winlink gateway in London, and only because I read a lot of the articles in the magazine, and I see some support from there. Thank you very much for the work.
Gracias, Jorge. I'm very familiar with the London Club. For those of you who might not know, I hail from Southern Ontario. I lived in Halton Hills my entire life up until the beginning of this year. I'm actually I've moved to Panama, so I'm waiting for my call sign down here, which is supposed to be Hotel Papa 3 Quebec Romeo, but I'm still waiting. I'm operating under IRP right now. Thank you very much. Dan Howard, I believe, please come, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Dan, VA3MA. I appreciate the ACS, the auxiliary, and I understand great to have that police officer sort of explain that. The only thing I don't understand is that ACS, is that community or communication? Auxiliary communication services, I think I can identify with that. But auxiliary, it's communication, not community.
Yeah, auxiliary communication service.
Thank you for that clarification.
No problem. The position within RAC is called Community Services Officer because it's not just about ACS, it's about the field organization, it's about community outreach, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how that works, and hopefully that makes some sense. George DeWar, go ahead. No audio. George, if you're speaking, you're muted. Nothing yet. Oh, I heard something. Nope. Okay, George, I'll let you get your audio figured out. You can raise your hand again if you can. Jorge, you have something else to add? Go ahead.
No, thank you very much, Phil.
No problem. Thank you. Paul, VE3PRB, go ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to pass my appreciation to you, Phil, for your excellent job as president of RAC for the last several years, and wish you all the best to you and your family down in Panama. And I also like to say a word of appreciation to all the RAC executives and to those that are incoming and outgoing, and looking forward to another great year with RAC's helm, and hopefully that the organization moves ahead.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much, and I'm glad we're all glad to be here. Claude Chauvin, go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you for your service. I highly appreciate it. I'm a member of the Manitoulin Amateur Radio Club. I think you're familiar with the radio club. Just want to say hi and thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Mr. Snow, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. First of all, Phil, kudos to yourself in particular and the whole executive team, because you've turned the ship around, and I for one thoroughly appreciate it. The comment that I wanted to make is I've been in MCOM my whole amateur career. This ACS process is originated in the States. I took the package in 2018 down in the Yuma, Arizona, the Sheriff's County ACS group. I just did the pilot course with Jason. I want to tell you the quality of the course that he ran, although the material was virtually identical. The exercises, the way he managed them, were far superior. We are going down the right road, as everyone, as you and the police officers have explained. So my hat off to Jason. He's done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, and yeah, much appreciated. So Jason Jason deserves a great deal of credit for all this. George Dewar, give her another try.
Okay, can you hear me now?
5-9, go ahead.
Okay, George Dewar, Victor Yankee 2 Golf Foxtrot, and you're going to be a tough act to follow, Phil. Anyway, I applaud the efforts being made to get young people involved in amateur radio and hope it continues unabated. Last couple of years, I've been sending numerous emails, and I even wrote you a letter, Phil, about a group that I think we should be targeting, and that's older people, especially people who are about to retire. And I was 53 years old when I got into amateur radio, and well, I survived another 7 or 8 years before I retired, but thank heavens I've got amateur radio in my life. I don't know what I would be doing. I can't keep up to my wife in gardening, so anyway, older people, especially people who are about to retire, usually have resources and time on their hands. So I'd like RAC to consider starting a program to target this group. I think they would be
George, you cut off. I'm not sure if it's internet problems or you pushed a button. I'll give you a second. I think you're gone, but so I get look. I get the general gist of what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. In fact, I mean, and this is some of this is anecdotal, but not all. But also like the median age of an amateur radio operator in Canada currently stands at 65. That's the median age. Don't everyone go thinking that we're all going to die soon, though, because you have to remember that between when I became a ham in 1994, by the way, I was 14. I'm 44 now, so I've been ham 30 years. The median age in Canada between 1994 and 2024 has increased by 8.9 years. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I sussed this out. The median age of a radio amateur in Canada only increased by 7 years. So technically, if you do the math, we're actually younger than the curve. But the reality is that a lot of us are older. But the reason a lot of us are older isn't because we're necessarily aging out of it. It's because a lot of people are already getting into it when they're older, because for the same reasons that George stated. Amateur radio can be expensive. It doesn't have to be, but for those of us who are like me and who just go, I'm going to go buy that, it can be expensive. And so having the resources of midlife and later on in life makes it easier to get into. George, if you were interested in pursuing something like this, I would strongly recommend you email Alan Griffin. He's our marketing communications officer manager at marcom@rac.ca. I'm sure he'd be really happy to hear your insights on that and maybe help you get involved. Maybe help you put something together like that. Daniel Alvarez, VE3 FCT. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem there, Phil. But I just want to say before I ask my question is thank you for taking the time here to host this event. And I hope you succeed wherever you are in Pamina. And I want to say thank you for being a president. My question is that for Youth on the Air, for the future, what is it going to be like for Canada here in Youth on the Air? I know that the Youth on the Air, they're going to have it in Colorado next year. So I just wanted to ask that there, Phil.
So the plan going forward is to take the lessons that we learned at YOTA 23 and YOTA 24 and put them together to see if we can create a camping event style event in Canada. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be ready for 25, but I believe the goal is to have something put together for 26. I think that's within the realm of possibility. And what has been discussed is that we would hold such camps rotating around the country. Have one out west, have one out east, have one in Quebec. It'd be nice if we could have camps in the territories, but it may not be feasible for anyone who knows about who tries to travel to the territories. It's probably cheaper to fly to Los Angeles than it is to fly to Yellowknife, or at least to find housing. But that's the idea, and that I would strongly recommend that you keep in touch with Jason, get you 3JXT, and I'm sure he would be more than happy to talk to you about what those plans are going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Mr. President-elect, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Phil. On behalf of the executive and the board of directors, as we're getting close to closing here, I just want to thank you under your tutelage over the last couple of years that we've worked together. Your insight and projections for RAC have moved us way into the 21st century. By all means, we're definitely going to miss you, and thank you for your guidance and support that you've given me as vice president. And to all the members of RAC out there, I certainly appreciate your inputs and a lot of the programs that you've mentioned. I've been listening very closely here this afternoon. Of course, the ACS program. It's very near and dear to my heart. I'm a retired provincial police officer here in Ontario. I've been involved in ARES programs and emergency services. I've worked very closely with Jason, and we're going to bring this into the 21st century and really look at it. To the youth programs that people are mentioning, it's a high priority. This is something that both Phil and I looked at, and definitely the awards, the membership programs that we've got to certainly increase. And I encourage all of you to talk to other members in your local clubs and areas to support RAC, because this is our national organization, and if we don't fight for our frequencies and that, we're going to be in trouble. So just on behalf of everyone, Phil, I want to thank you so much. We're going to miss you, but I know it's not going to be over. You're going to be involved in some way, and we'll certainly seek you out. So with that, I look forward and thank you for the support of the directors and the organization. I have an open door policy. If anybody has any concerns or questions, feel free to search me out, and I'll definitely address any concerns that you may have. So with that, Phil, thank you again, and I'll turn it back to you.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much, Al. I got a couple more here, and then I think we'll call it a night. Alan McElroy, Victor Echo 3, Echo Bravo November. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Very first general meeting that I've attended, so I was a bit surprised that I felt short. Is that normal? I say short because I'm in a course right now, and it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours every session. So
the annual general meeting is a legal requirement to be a federally to be an incorporated entity. So basically, it's just it's so the members can. So the president gives his report. It's a way that all the members can know what's going on, that we can present the financials, we can present the audit of financial statements. It's also how we enact bylaw changes and bylaw adoption. So we haven't done one this time around because there is no need. But if there was ever a need to change the bylaws, then the bylaw would be proposed by the board. It would go out on TCA 60 days prior to the meeting. It would be debated and it would be voted on, and that's how those changes happen. So no, the AGMs are usually a very, very short affair. I mean, 24 minutes. I mean, also, I am all about brevity in meetings. Like I've got the socks to say this meeting could have been an email. That's me. So, but no, the AGM is it's and like I've been like other organizations like my gun club when I was a member in Ontario. The AGM sometimes would last half an hour, sometimes would last 3 hours. It depends on if anything contentious. It depends if anything contentious is being debated. If there's nothing contentious going on, then it's a fairly quick thing. But it's more the AGM. This is more about what this is about. So the membership can ask me questions. I can pass to the executive in a live form. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. They answered one of them. I had two more quick ones. I was surprised when you said mentioned early on, when some people say that radio cannot help when when a weather disaster, whether it's a tornado, big flood, or a blizzard that bears you under 3 feet, that radio won't save your life. That I have found very surprising. I pretty much agree with what you said.
Well, what I'm referring to is that there's a voice out there of other radio amateurs who think
Right.
that there's no place for amateur radio in providing service to agencies. That satellite will save us all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that attitude's been around since before I was born.
Same. Yeah.
So, and I'm just my purpose was to say that the people that we potentially can serve don't believe that, especially after
okay.
especially after the Rogers outage of 2022, especially after the Russo-Ukraine war started. Attitudes began to change, and
Okay.
we're here to provide. If the governments have come to us and begun to ask us questions, we're answering them, and we're developing programs around that. So hopefully that answers that question.
Okay. Okay. And my third last one. You mentioned something EM and ACS. I guess like additional training for helping out in that sense. What?
The ACS program, the goal is to make it a certification course for people who want to provide communications assistance to government agencies and governments with jurisdiction that would be recognized by those agencies. That's what we're developing.
Okay.
And it's going to take a while. Again, we're all volunteers.
Right. So would that be still viewed as the same or an extra asset?
It would stay tuned.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
Still in development.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. But it's in development, but it's actually being developed.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Alan Wooten, pardon me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, good afternoon, Victor Yankee 1 Kilo X-ray. I'd like so many others to thank you and the executive for all the work that you do, both for domestic work and internationally. I think it's really wonderful that you do so much for amateur radio that way. I'm a bit surprised at the 5% or so membership, and that sort of concerns me. I think I think that in the past, and I assume it's still being done, that TCA magazine is going out to new amateurs as they get their certificate. Is that correct?
Kind of. So the agreement that we have with the Amateur Radio Service Center in Sault Ste. Marie, which is the building where all of our certificates come from, that's where our inquiries go to. Whenever a certificate goes out, whether it's a new one or an old one, but whenever a certificate goes out, a piece of paper with my mug on it and soon to be Al's mug on it goes out and offers a 1-year complimentary membership to RAC to all newly certified amateur radio operators. It gives them a place to go, and I haven't put the numbers together for this yet, but just based on what I've seen, a lot of people are taking advantage of it, and a lot of people are retaining it after the complimentary period goes away, which is one of the reasons why we saw a 5% increase. If we see 5% increases in membership for the next 10 years, we're in a really good spot, because those compound on each other. So
yeah, thank you. I'm glad that program is still going, and thanks for that clarification about it. I also wanted to say about the TCA magazine. I really think that's a great benefit to us. I think there's so many really interesting and worthwhile articles in there. I think the editorial work done by Alan Griffin is just great, and I really appreciate that very much. So altogether, I think RAC is doing a really nice job, and I think that the Canadian contests are really also a wonderful pair of events for fostering good relationships across the country and across the world. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Ian, VY1 IRM, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, another Yukoner here. I'm the president of the Yukon Amateur Radio Club, and just want to throw out a thanks to Jason Tremblay with regards to the outreach he's provided to Yukon amateurs and his presentation on ACS. We're very excited about that, and certainly would want to kind of dive into that here when that's a possibility. So just thanks to Jason.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure he appreciates it. I know I've appreciated all the work he's done. So, guys, it's 5 after 5 Eastern Daylight. Are there any other questions I can entertain before I bring this to a close? Hearing none, again, I really appreciate all the feedback we've received. I appreciate all the best wishes. I'm glad that everyone's generally happy with what I've done. It makes it easier to walk away. I look forward to hearing all of you on the air. It just sucks that my call sign is not going to be worth 10 points in the Canada contest anymore. But keep an ear for Hotel Papa 3 Quebec Romeo. For now, I'm Hotel Papa 3 Stroke VA 3QR 73s. Thank you for your support. Have a great weekend.